I welcome to the stage ARC's Advisory Research Director, Luciano Narcisi. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lucian. Good morning, good afternoon, and maybe good evening also. And thanks for joining us. My name is Luciano Narcisi, and today I will be your moderator. During this session, we will discuss the role of data and industrial IoT in achieving sustainability goals and how it can transform manufacturing. We will talk about the value that companies are generating through this, the challenges they are facing, and also the technologies that are helping the industry to move forward. So first, I would like to extend a special thanks to Tori here and the team of HiByte for sponsoring this session. It will be not possible to run this virtual conference without them, so thank you, Tori.
Thank you for having me.
Second, we would like to know a little bit more about our audience. I see that some people is already writing there where are they based. So if you would like to test the chat box and write where are you from, I will appreciate that. I see Mac here from Toronto. I see Panacolas from Delaware. I see David. Where are you from, David? Arians. We have people from India, Raja. Welcome. Blake from US, Canada, Romania as well. Manchester, UK, Missouri, Einar, thank you. It's great to see people from so many places. Algeria, Ukraine, welcome, welcome at them. Dublin as well, Canada. Brazil, nice to see you there. Emirates, hello, and Italy, Australia. So, okay, good evening for Australia there. So, Dusseldorf, I'm based in Germany as well. Welcome, UK, Egypt. It's great to see people from so many places. Thank you for joining us. Now, I would like to start with a survey. We want to understand. Oh, someone from Argentina. I'm from Argentina as well. Hello. Sorry. I would like to start with an audience, with a poll here to know a little bit more. So if Andrea can help me open the poll, I will appreciate that. You should see the poll. We want to know where are you currently standing within your sustainability plan. So we want to know about the people here. Maybe you don't know where is the company standing, no plans yet could be as well. Maybe sustainability plan is not a big urgency for you because of your business. Maybe you're currently investigating how to start designing your plan, or you're taking the first steps, or maybe you're well underway the plan. So let's give a couple of minutes. Please click on submit. And Raja Babu from India, welcome. While the people is answering the poll. Okay. So Andrea, would you tell me how to see the results? Okay, great. So this is for you guys here, panelists also. A lot of people currently investigating how to start with this sustainability plan. Very interesting. We have people taking first steps there as well. A little bit less well underway, and some of them are also don't have any plans. Maybe they don't need it, or maybe they don't know where to start. So yeah, it's great to see so many diverse answers here, and hopefully this session here will help you if you're investigating, if you're taking your first steps, even if you're already well underway the plan. You will find value on this. So stay tuned. Hopefully you can stay until the end. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. So a couple of things we would like our audience to be aware of. We are taking questions at the conclusions. So please post those into the QA tool you have been using in the chat tool, then you see to the right there is a tab that is QA. So please use that tab, the QA, to post your questions. Do not wait until the end. You can start writing the questions there, and then at the end we will spend some minutes. Hopefully, we'll have time for that for sure, to go through these questions, and we will ask the panelists here. The track will run 59 minutes, and we will have you out of here on time. So I would like to start to introduce our special guest now. So we have Brian Rosema. He's Vice President of Industrial IoT at LEC. He was recognized as one of the top 10 leaders in industrial IoT by Industrial IoT World in 2019. He has a strong background in business and product development, specializing in new growth strategies, channel development, and strategic sales initiatives. His expertise includes team leadership, product management, and creating positive corporate culture. So thanks for joining us, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Martin Dietz here. He's head of C Green Connect. Martin is a seasonal leader with a deep root background in manufacturing, who has dedicated his career to harnessing the power of technology to drive sustainable innovation. His years of hands-on experience and successful projects in Siemens manufacturing and the automotive industry have made him a pioneer in the IoT solutions. So as a key player at Siemens startup Seagreen, Martin leads the development of software solutions that connect customers' IT OT systems with Seagreen Cloud Platform, enabling accurate determination and sharing of product carbon footprint data. So happy to have you here, Martin. Welcome.
Thank you.
Then we have Tori Pedro Cambra. She's co-founder and chief communication officer at Hivite. She's focused on the company messaging strategy, market presence, and availability to operationalize. Tori began in biotechnology and pharmaceutical launches, quickly advancing in B2B industrial software. She's passionate about equal STEM opportunities for women and the potential of IoT in this industry. Tori applies data-driven approach to operations, drawing from her academic background in chemistry and advanced studies in bioethics and health law. So, Tori, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
And finally, a few words about me, your moderator for this session. My name is Luciano Narcisi, Research Director at ARC Advisory Group. I have more than 15 years as a technical consultant in the process industry. My main background is asset performance management and digital transformation, and currently I'm focusing on sustainability topics in the process industry here in Europe. So now we will start with our session. Quick reminder, ask your question using the QA function, and we will get to as many as we can. So please start submitting them during the session rather than waiting until the end. So this session will be structured in three main topics. First, we will explore the value that companies are perceiving or generating by investing in their sustainability roadmaps. We will then explore the challenges that companies are facing, and we will end up talking about solutions that are already there that are helping them moving forward. So let's start talking about the value. And the first question is for Tori. So Tori, could you share some practical examples of manufacturers using data for sustainability purposes? Maybe most common use cases across discrete, batch, and process? And if you could share with us the value that do you think that they are generating through this?
Yeah, no, thank you, Lucian. It's a great question. So I would say, when I look across our broad customer base that includes discrete batch process manufacturers, I would put them into 4 buckets of sustainability projects that we're seeing. The first is probably the most obvious and maybe the most critical, and that's GHG, or greenhouse gas emissions monitoring and reductions. And that's for scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. And that could be carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, et cetera. And I would say this one's probably the most critical. I was just looking at data the other day from International Energy Agency, And manufacturing and power is accountable for 63% of the energy-related CO2 emissions worldwide. So we know this is a big issue, and obviously there's a lot of regulatory pressure behind this bucket of use cases. So that's number one. The second would be like other sustainability projects we hear of more increasingly. So that would be like machine power consumption, groundwater impact, landfill diversion programs, even pallet recovery and reuse. So those kind of use cases are coming up more. The third would be around operational efficiency. And I think that, these are like your more traditional lean manufacturing use cases. So product quality, improving first pass yields, scrap reduction. And while all of these are improving output, they're also resulting in less emissions per unit produced. So a win-win. And then the fourth bucket, this one's a little different, but this is around IT efficiency. We see a lot of use cases around reducing digital waste. And by that, I mean like the data that you're storing and processing. And so if I do some math here, saving and storing 100 gigabytes of data will generate 3.2 tons of CO2 annually. So for a manufacturer who has 60 sites, that's the equivalent of 10,000 passenger vehicles on the road every year. So there is a major impact to the amount of data that we're storing and processing. And while I'm a big advocate for cloud, it's necessary for scale, but it is not a magical destination, right? There are impacts on energy and water consumption. So we just need to be super intentional about the data that we're storing and processing, or we're just adding to digital waste. And, digital waste has to be calculated when we're looking at our overall carbon footprint too. So those would be the four buckets. And then if I think about value, that kind of falls into four buckets also. The first would just be around regulatory compliance, especially in Europe. So that's a must do. Otherwise, we're looking at major fines and other corporate implications. The second value would be around cost savings. And so when you think about some of those lean use cases I was talking about, in this way, sustainable manufacturing is smart manufacturing. There should be an impact here on bottom line. And then the third would actually be around a more engaged workforce. I think motivating a workforce around sustainability initiatives can help encourage employee retention and engagement, especially for your frontline workers. And then the fourth is marketing to consumers. We see this use case come up more in consumer packaged goods manufacturing. Letting you tell the story of the actions that you're taking to become a more sustainable company can actually help you with and give you a competitive advantage on the shelf. And so in that way, there's also an impact on the top line too.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Brian, the next question is for you. And, I was doing a study on decarbonization, and one of the main business drivers behind these investments is related to energy efficiency. So how do you think the integration of industrial IoT and real-time data monitoring help manufacturers to reduce energy consumption and improve operational efficiency?
It's a really good question as well. Energy consumption or energy efficiency is really just one component. When we talk to manufacturers, municipalities, industry in general, it's any type of consumable is something that needs to be monitored, right? So energy consumption is one thing, but if we're working with a municipal water treatment facility that's adding chlorine, fluoride, those types of consumables, right? Those types of consumables can really drive additional cost, and overuse or lack of use can also open up for liability and compliance issues, right? So any type of consumable is something that we're tracking now in real time. The upside to real-time data is the alerting and alarming that comes with those types of notifications. So if they're traditionally assets that we wouldn't have had connected, weren't monitoring, the real-time access to data, those alerts and alarms help not only safety, but limit waste, right? Limit the amount of fluids or waters or pressures that we've either lost or raw materials that we've lost through the production process, right? So real-time data gives us those real-time alerts and alarms to those safety and those production issues that drive immediate ROI. We hear customers say this, I wish I would have known sooner, Real-time data allows that to resolve that. I wish I would have known sooner. The upside is now we're gaining this real-time data. We're not having to create different channels of data. We're utilizing that data to feed into these more analytical systems, right? To AI, to GIS systems. So we're utilizing the same data we're getting in real time, for more deeper analytics after the fact. But it's the immediate things that return on safety, the reduction in consumption of energy and other consumables that helps fund, right, the ongoing analytics and the depth in which an organization can take on IoT. And I think that's a key element, is really getting the initial return on an investment from real-time alerts and alarms to anything in the process that's falling outside of measurable parameters, right?
Yeah, thanks. And what about predictive maintenance? So when it is powered by IoT, what role plays in reducing waste and extending the life cycle of manufacturing equipment?
I look at this in a couple of different ways. We work with OEMs, for example, that are now wanting to incorporate IoT into the devices that they manufacture. So whether that's a industrial compressor, or maybe it's on the SEM side of the business, we're talking about emissions control and emissions monitoring. That's a growing portion of our business. And allowing access to that data starting from real time, right, going into a more analytics background helps I guess increase the level of insight into the day-to-day operations. The real-time granular data, such as levels, pressures, amperages, draws, runtimes, all of those things that we collect operationally, ends up being a real key data point for preventative and predictive maintenance. So, operational expectations become pretty normal, right? We're lowering overall downtime because we have access to this data. So I think improving the long-term efficiency comes from adding data analytics to those, and the tools that we have now available to just wonderful applications, right, that allow us to identify operational optimization opportunities with the data that we're collecting in real time.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is for Martin. So you have many years of experience in manufacturing and automotive. What do you think is the main value that companies are gaining by having an accurate and dynamic PCF data?
Yeah, thank you. The value of PCF, of product carbon footprint. What is the value that you have data for carbon footprint? This is not easy to answer. Everybody wanna have a good impact for the environment, but where can you get the money to invest it? And I want to explain you. So we with Seagreen, we're dealing with product carbon footprint data. So how much carbon is inside your product, and therefore you usually have a big impact in the supply chain. So when you have any product, I have here some, you have here some electronics. So everything from the supply chain, from your parts, you need to have the data to collect it, to sum it up. And usually you do that by database values. So we could have founded Seagreen and say, okay, let's connect to all these databases, and then you have the database values. But this is not what helps you, because then you have an average value, and nobody is average. Give you an example. The average temperature in the Sahara Desert is 20 degrees or 68 Fahrenheit. But it is not 30 degrees. So there's an example what I can give you. When you talk about there's carbon mines, they did a research study. They asked 100 companies in China for plastic resin, for polypropylene, and they got very different numbers, factor 11. So it makes really an impact if you have actual data. That is what you asked, right? What is the value of actual data? So usually you have a more accurate one, and hopefully a lower one, because you usually buy at the best suppliers, right? And we with Siemens, we have an example with BASF from Germany. So we first looked in our databases, And then we asked them, and we got a potential of 46%, what we could lower our product carbon footprint. Not our product carbon footprint, but what was the potential, because we asked them for actual data and not for averages. And now you see what you can get. You get then all the actual values, and then you see where you can optimize, where you can learn, where are the levers, yeah, and that has all impact on your product carbon footprint. And now is the financial benefit coming. So there are coming regulations like CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and others in Europe. Yeah? And the less your carbon footprint is, which you can prove with accurate data or with the right measures because you have the actual data, the less you need to do for compensation, which costs money. And the better you can compete with your competitors, because everybody wants to sell green products. Maybe you win even some more customers. Yeah? And there's, in many products, there's 90% in the supply chain. So it helps you to have actual data, and on top to have it dynamically. And this is what we did. Let's exchange. So my supplier has now a PV on the roof. Give me next data, actual data, dynamic data. They have now improved the process. Give me the data, and I'll lower down also my carbon footprint. So what I want to say is there is a value, and it's the value that we improve environment, yes, but it's also a value in which you can count. Compensation, efforts for calculating, if you have a lot of parts, and win new customers, which really gives you the money back for investing in such projects.
Okay. Yeah, clear. Thanks, Martin. And thanks for bringing your products there. Thank you. So Martin was mentioning how things going here in Europe. Tori, maybe so there is clear value in these initiatives. Maybe you can tell us about the investment, how investment changing globally for sustainability and technology programs. Maybe a difference between US and Europe. Can you provide?
Yeah, Luciano, I don't certainly pretend to be an expert on EU policies and directives, but we definitely hear about them from customers, and I'll start by saying that we do see sustainability use cases and reference architectures in the US, and that's increasing. It's been increasing over, I'd say, like the last 24 months, but most of what we're hearing is still coming out of manufacturers based in Europe. And I think, a lot of that is, some of that, right, is geopolitical tensions that are forcing countries to look at their own energy usage and how they're sourcing energy. And then there's just a lot of policy directives. So we hear about a few, the first being CSRD, or the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, that's making carbon emissions for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 mandatory. So that's estimated to impact 50,000 companies that will have to comply with these reporting requirements. So that's obviously driving some of the sustainability projects and investments in Europe. The second policy in EU that we're hearing about is around PFAS, or the persistent synthetic chemicals. Those are bans or restrictions on those. So that means that, it's going to force manufacturers to replace a lot of these substances with alternative substances. That's going to take a lot of R&D and investments there as well. And then the third area we hear some about now too is, I believe it's the ELV directive, or the end of life for vehicles. So between those three different policies, there's a lot more pressure happening in Europe. So I think there's more investments just out of necessity. But that said, ultimately, most large manufacturers have a global footprint. So while there's more pressure in the EU, this is a global issue, and it requires global investment. And I think different countries will be on different timelines, but ultimately, I think we're all headed in the same direction.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also linked with what Martin was saying. Company needs to start thinking also on scope 3, which involves the whole value chain on the products. So it will affect worldwide. So I was taking notes of what you shared, the three of you with me, with the audience here. So there are clear value. There's clear value on compliance. I heard about waste reduction, energy efficiency, process efficiency, asset performance, and I think there is also a competitive advantage that companies can gain when demonstrate they have a lower product carbon footprint, for example. So thank you for this. And now I will jump to the second part of the session, which is about the challenges. So we would like to start with a poll for the audience here. So Andrea, could you start the poll number 2? Thank you. Yeah. So in this case, you can select more than one option, and we can use it also to reflect on the results. So what are the primary sustainability execution challenges your company is facing? Please select the ones you believe are the most important, and then we will see the results. Just give me a second. Okay, that's good. Maybe there are other reasons. So we have poor data quality or limited trust in data that can be collected, lack of strategic planning from leadership, lack of internal sustainability expertise, no budget, or not a priority. Maybe there is another reason that you could share also in the chat as well. Now that I see the chat, I see people from Mexico as well and France. Okay. Could we see the results of the poll? Thank you.
Ooh.
Okay. So it's quite well distributed between the first four, I will say, but poor data is one of the first challenges. So good for you, all the panelists that are working on this. So I'm sure you like to see this because you have solutions for the people in this relation. Lack of strategic planning from leadership, that seems to be also a relevant cause. And then following lack of internal sustainability expertise and no budget. So yeah, thanks for sharing this. Okay, we will continue with the questions. Tori, any reflections on the result from the poll?
Yeah, I was looking at it and thinking that the challenges are broad, right? There's no like one silver bullet that we all address and then we solve these challenges. So they're vast. I also think it's interesting to compare it to the first poll. Many of you are currently investigating solutions for this, so it makes sense that many are also looking for strategic directive from leadership or working on that plan yourselves to create that leadership plan. And the data part definitely doesn't surprise me either. We hear that all the time, and hopefully we'll get more into that in this conversation too, on what it takes to make data usable for these sustainability use cases. It's not easy.
I want to add that the answer with trusted data is really interesting. So I hear that very often. So can I trust the data? Is it the right data? How did you calculate it? There's coming a lot of initiatives, associations out to make rule books and so on. This is that I can agree with. This is a big topic.
Thanks, Brian. Any reflection on that?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we get a lot of the same concerns about the quality of the data, right? In particular, LEC in particular spends a lot of time making dumb things smart, right? So we're utilizing aged infrastructure that either the manufacturer, the municipality, the utility needs to continue to leverage, right, as part of making this to create the ROI for ongoing investment. So I think the thing about budget and the quality of the data, can we trust the data that we're getting from these old assets? Yeah, that's always a question. I think I'm not surprised by the poll.
Okay, thanks. And Martin, what do you think are other challenges when it comes to decarbonization in manufacturing? Or maybe you can tell us where emissions are coming from and what are companies already doing to mitigate them?
Yeah, Brian said making dump to quality, or how did you phrase it? I need to remember that. Yeah, the challenge is actually, yeah, when you're dealing with data from factories, you meet everything, yeah, brownfield, greenfield, everything. And in the topic of product carbon footprints, you divide up between supply chain and their own emissions, which is gate to gate. So when you manufacture product, your products, and this is in the manufacturing happening, and there usually it's energy consumptions, like from electricity of your factories, or that per building usually how much you have the digital metering, you measure it, but there's more with the emissions, like natural gas you have for heating or for your process, like refrigerants, which has a big impact because there you don't have CO2 or CH4, but even more hazardous gases. Waste is a big impact, and the people are asking for these green products and not for a green factory, because Siemens, you ask us for green product of your PLC or your industrial PC or the train, and not the average of Siemens.
It's a good
Doesn't
thing.
help. And so you need to determine your factory emissions to a product, and this is new. This is usually you don't find in an energy management system. So you need to allocate it, and then you need to decide, do I do it per piece count, or do it financial based, or by production time? And if I do it by production time, I need to have MES data or PLM data or ERP, and now it's coming interesting. You have different buckets of data, and you need to map them, and this is now the challenge. And if you produce only one product, then it's easy, but usually you have a lot, and then you need automatically do it, integrate different sources. What is Tori doing with data hubs, have one structure, which helps a lot, Tori.
I know you're speaking my language, Martin.
Yeah. And mitigation measures, as you ask for, what do they do in the manufacturing? So you purchase green energy, right? And you do invest in isolating your buildings, or lighting. You don't believe it, but lighting is usually a big impact if you don't have LED yet. Then a reuse of wasted heat, especially in steel, in glass, and in other ones. You can earn money with that. There are some countries where it's already usual, and some countries which is still a way to go. Then you can go from natural gas to hydrogen or electric. So substitute your source of energy. Updating of technology for chillers, we see very often, and check the impact of the supply chain. What I talked before, most emissions usually are in the parts you purchase, and there you need to measure and have accurate data. And then sort by the most impact. Don't get overwhelmed with trusted data and so on. Just sort it, especially in the supply chain. Usually the 3 products, 3 out of 100 make 50%. And there you start, and that we see very often. And then you can go with other suppliers, use recycled materials, use local sourcing, don't fly it, and don't get overwhelmed with this topic. Start with the low-hanging fruits. This is a solution, and with the parts which impact most. So
Can be a long-term plan as well.
yeah, long-term plan and good data.
So I think we're missing one challenge could be about security. This is something I would like to ask Brian. What do you think are the key security challenges that manufacturers face when they're implementing IoT solutions for sustainability, and how do you guys address these barriers?
Yeah, and I think we see different challenges. For example, in an operational environment versus a manufacturing environment, ops has different needs, right? Than others. So we see different needs, and different security requirements come with those needs. Some systems need to be outside of the network. Some need to be inside the network. I think that's been mentioned. Martin, you mentioned a great point where, we've got to integrate this data somehow from a wide variety of different sources, right? So how do we do that? And how do we do that securely? So when we're talking about adding data from traditionally disparate devices that we haven't had in the system in the past, again, we're making dumb stuff smart with a lot of older technology that's at the edge. It's still there. It's still viable. But how do we get that data securely to the edge? LEC from the edge. LEC kind of approaches those things in three main ways, which is we have to we have to make sure that the hardware has a secure client. So, if it's an aged device, that's fine, but the overriding client that's operating that device needs to be encrypted and needs to be secure, right? Then the data transport, the actual network itself, has to be secure. So whether that's your typical ISP or your home network, whether that's, your manufacturing network, or whether that's, cellular or satellite for those that are outside the four walls, that still needs to be securely managed, right? In a private network data only environment that only gives certain people access to that data. So at LEC, private network communications is very key to all of our manufacturing clients. And we separate that from the common internet user. It should be. It's that key. We've taken it one step further to even add systems like FirstNet, right? Which in the US is the first responder network. It's what public safety and EMS is utilizing. We're seeing secondary use cases now in oil and gas and water where we're utilizing this network that's not only secure, but it's also meets some pretty stringent SLAs for uptime that we wouldn't see in traditional commercial networks. So, network security, network speed, and sustainability, there's a lot of ways to help build that beyond just the norms in which we typically look at that. The last one then is the software itself. So whatever software is being utilized for data visualization, alerting, alarming, monitoring, control, or analytics obviously has to be encrypted. So looking at security in those three aspects, software, hardware, and network, right? We look at all three of those things as key to an overarching system and make sure that our customers, our partners are looking at security in with those three key pillars.
Okay, thank you. Now we are talking already about the solutions. So this question is for Tori. What advice do you have for manufacturers that are kicking off a new sustainability program? How do they get started with this?
Yeah, to get started, I think when we've seen most successful is when manufacturers commit from the top down. And so that means leadership has to be fully committed to this. Mm-hmm. That means a cultural change that's meaningful. This means the leadership team has to really understand the why behind why they're doing this, because if it's inauthentic, the company will know. So the first is leadership commitment. This is, I think Martin said this too, this is long-term, right? Like this is not something you address in a few months. This is a long-term commitment. So I think that is step one. Step two then is benchmarking. Like, you can't set goals unless you know where you are, right? So then this is like understanding the sustainability use cases you're trying to solve, identifying the end applications where this data will need to be consumed to solve them, and then backing into the data sources you'll need to connect to, and then how you'll contextualize and correlate the data for these use cases. So that, you know, can use a data ops approach to do that, right? Where you're collecting this data and contextualizing it for that specific use case, documenting and collecting the data so you can benchmark where you are today. That's step two. Then use that data to 3, set goals. And like, I think it works best when they're aggressive but achievable. You don't want to like set goals that are so unrealistic that it can be demoralizing in 12 months if you don't get to where you want to go. So then setting those goals. And then the 4th step, you know, I come, you know, from a communications perspective of all this is storytelling within your own company. 4th is like making these goals clear and pervasive throughout the company, telling the story. Everyone needs to live them. It takes training and strong internal communications. And I get excited when I see like frontline workers so empowered by the sustainability directive of the company that they're the ones that are surfacing new sustainability projects when they see them on the factory floor. Oh, this asset could run more efficiently. Oh, this pallet could be reused. Oh, we could, you know, optimize the energy consumption in this plant if we did X, Y, and Z. They're the ones that are seeing it day to day. And if you make them feel empowered and part of this change, they're going to be driving your future projects. So that would be in my advice on getting started is first just the commitment to it, and then data and everything else that follows.
Thank you. So that's what would be the relation with data ops and sustainability? I think you already mentioned it.
Yeah. I mean, every single one of the projects we talked about, whether it's greenhouse gas emissions or looking, you know, even at like OEE and like your power consumption by asset, or any of the use cases we talked about, all of them require measurement, data sensing, data contextualization, orchestration. And this is when data ops becomes critical. HiByte offers one of those solutions. It's HiByte Intelligence Hub. There are data ops solutions on the market. You can build them yourself or you can buy them, but the core of data ops is orchestrating people, process, technology to deliver trusted, getting back to the word that Martin called out earlier, ready to use data to all the systems and people who require it. And you can do that through a data automation process that follows some of the CI/CD practices that like we see in IT are now getting applied to the manufacturing floor as well. And so you have to go beyond data access. Like, getting raw data is not good enough, because what you need to do is be able to curate, model, and stream payloads of data to consuming applications. So you're going to have to get data from your MES, your ERP, your historian, probably sensor data, some bespoke database that's out on the plant floor, a CSV file. I mean, that's what it takes to solve these use cases. And data is really going to be the backbone of sustainability success. And using a data ops solution can help you get there faster.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Brian, next question for you. How does LEC supports manufacturing meet the sustainability goals and the regulatory compliance?
Well, I think Tori just covered a lot of that. She did a great job there. I mean, at the end of the day, the data that we're collecting out of these systems is going into ERP and GIS systems and AI systems and data analytics systems, right? And now what we're seeing is them getting that data getting into compliance-based applications. In other words, here's an example. Whether it's industrial, municipal, water flow, influent water flow, water usage is highly monitored, highly controlled, right? What we're doing now is traditionally was done via kind of clipboard compliance. What we've got now is we've actually got data coming from pumps, valves, coming from this system, going directly into state, local, and government compliance applications. So there's no longer we've established trust in the quality of the data, Martin. We've established trust in the quality of the data enough that now state, federal, and local governments are beginning to accept that data as part of the compliance documentation, right? So getting rid of the clipboard, monitoring these systems on a daily, weekly, hourly, monthly basis is now streamlined. That data is going directly into these compliance applications, directly into the government entities, that are regulating them. So that, in my opinion, is a sign of the resilience of this market, where it's headed. That where we've got enough trust in the data that we're able to collect the data securely and then get it into these compliance systems that eliminate almost all human resources, right? And they keep us in safe zones while we're doing it, right? We're spending less time on the oil pad. We're spending less time in pump stations. We're spending less times where there's high voltage, where there's moving parts, and where there's more dangerous operations in manufacturing. So this, to me, that's part of the solution. So hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. So, last question for you, Martin. Maybe you can expand a little bit more on the role of data in IoT and when it comes to PCF, to product carbon footprint. How can we harness data? A little bit more about the challenges, maybe, that you could share.
Yeah, that was more than one question, but I do my best. Yeah. So first, to add on to the other guys, so you should not do that to fulfill any regulation. Yeah. You do that for improving your product, improving your processes, and so on. Yeah. I already talked about actual data and database values. The data is there. Yeah? You have it in your systems, but you need to use it. And here you need to uncover the data you have now in your IT and in your OT. And often the data is in different systems, energy metering, MES, ERP, and the challenge is you need to map it because you have different interfaces, yeah, and it doesn't fit together. And this is a lot of work. Some have structured data, which has everything in one system in the data hub, like Hybrid, but many companies have a lack here. So the more convenient and seamless the data is structured, the easier, faster, and cheaper it is. I'll give you some examples. So you have an energy metering you have on the shop floor. It's in a PLC. Then the energy management software, where you have the data structured, it's on-prem. It's in IT server. And for allocating then to products, you want to have when were the products produced on a machine. This is now in your traceability data, in your MES. It's a database, your IT systems, or maybe it's a private cloud. And then you have to say how much waste I had last year, or how much gasoline I purchased. This is an invoice in your ERP system. And then you have the product data is in the PLM and so on. So you see many interfaces needed. Yeah? But there's a way to solve it. I had it in Istanbul, in Turkey, in a project where we had a data hub where we could leverage the data, use the data, map it, and calculate values and help them. We had something similar now in Mexico, also with the data hub. We went to a glass manufacturer in Austria, in Europe. They wanted to drill it down on a batch level, really on a batch level. What is the carbon footprint here? Because it makes sense in for their customers. And there you need to have now this vertical integration and the horizontal integration. So vertical means you go down to the system from PLC, IT to cloud. And then you want to share the data, what I explained before. So there we have it in a pilot with BMW, the car manufacturer, and Covestro. They're doing plastic resins. And there are different industries they meet, and they exchange now the data horizontal with a special technology with Catena X. So there is demand for exchanging that data, and there's a way, and there are benefits. This data sharing, I think this is the future for reducing the efforts in the value chain. Just use the data of the others, don't calculate it several times the same. And for sharing the data between the companies, usually you don't want to send it by email. So you need to have the data in the cloud. I'm convinced that doesn't help to have it only in your shop floor or in your IT. And this seamless connectivity, this is now the lever to solve the problem.
Thank you. Thanks. So, yeah, we are reaching the end of this session. I wanted to see if there are questions from the audience. Just give me 1 second. Q&A. Yes, yeah, I found it. Yeah, we have a couple of questions here. We have a question from Ala. So he's asking, what are the common data-driven technology solutions used for tracking carbon footprints in supply chains? So
this is for me, I guess.
Maybe, yeah, maybe Martin, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So there's technology coming up which defines the interfaces, like from the World Business Council of Sustainable Development, this PACT framework. They have a rule book and they say they have a data model, and they have not only a data model but also the an interface programmed. So that leverages that you don't know which system your supplier has with software, and you do not everybody needs to have the same software, but the software needs to comply to these data models and to this technology. And there are more. There's Catena X, there's PACT, and there are more. And this data-driven technology, this really is very helpful for exchange of data, because, to be honest, not Highbyte, not LEC, not Siemens alone will be there. There will be more. And these solutions, this technology helps to really spread it, to scale it in the supply chain.
Thank you. And then we have a question from Manuel Wexler. With EU regulations, the requirement for accurate reporting includes the supply chain, similar to what Ala was also mentioning. This presents a new challenge for small and medium enterprises suppliers, and who often lack of the data collection and management capabilities of large multinationals. So how can this problem be addressed? I don't know, maybe Tori or Brian would like to reflect on this?
Oh, I can't hear you, Brian.
Oh, you're on mute.
I said, Tori, go ahead, and then maybe I'll follow up.
Okay, I'll take a pass at it.
All right.
You know, we looked across our database, and almost 70% of the customers we're working with are doing $1 billion or more in revenue. 50% are doing 10 billion or more. So a lot of the companies that we're working with are large manufacturers and have very complicated, heterogeneous environments. That said, we also have a number of manufacturers that we're working with that are small manufacturers, but what is different about them is not their revenue size, but their digital maturity. And so they're looking at DataOps solutions and adopting them because I think they recognize the importance of giving themselves a competitive advantage to be able to collect and manage vast amounts of the data that they're going to produce from the plant floor, and also be able to bring insights that they're getting from the cloud back down to the plant floor so operators can make informed decisions there. So you know, the solutions we're talking about, I don't believe are just for medium or large manufacturers. It can also be for very digitally mature, ready to change smaller manufacturers that maybe only have a plant or two, but they're forward thinking and want to use the data that they're collecting either for sustainability purposes, competitive purposes. So this is not just for large manufacturers, and I think it's price attainable for smaller manufacturers as well.
Thank you for these This is a wonderful question, because we concentrate a lot of data integration, and everybody who is in this SME says, "Oh, I have so much work." Yeah. If you have a small manufacturing, yeah, I understand that you need to have something easy, and that's why we with Seagreen, we have this fully integrated, what we talked about now 1 hour, but we also have a front end which is very easy. You don't need to read all the rule books. It's like a survey, and the best you only need your browser. And what really helps you is you don't answer your 10 customers with a separate form, but we have this standardized. Yeah, we say, okay, we have it here, we send it to you. Yeah, and that helps usually these SMEs a lot. Make it easy, break it down for them, and convince the customers that not everybody sticks to their Excel form, but to go for sharing it via common data models and sharing with one tool.
Yeah.
Super question.
And from a company, I think that's smart, Martin. And from a company that develops and creates solutions, and I'm going to say more specifically for small to mid-size manufacturer, municipality, and utility, where the need is very high. There's things we are doing, like deriving simplicity of the technology to reduce the use of third-party engineering resources. You should be able to utilize this internally you're not doing development anymore. You should be doing configuration, right? Software should allow you to configure. You shouldn't have to develop. We're doing things like driving down hardware costs to provide, already, devices that are already configured and are fully operational, that are secure, easily deployed, and easily put into the field, right? Installation costs. We're actually thinking about the cost of installation to drive that down, right? And then again, on the network side, we're utilizing cloud-based solutions rather than server-based solutions. A lot of these things are, tens of dollars per month. So there are opportunities here for small and mid-size utilities, manufacturers, and municipalities to begin to leverage these IoT technologies that are available. Like I said, find the 1 or 2 things that are pain points. Great example, City of Jackson, Mississippi. We put in about 70 pressure units, and within 6 months, we are now saving them 16 million gallons of treated water daily. 16 million gallons of treated water daily. So they had to process that through all the electrical requirements. They've added fluoride, they've added chlorine, they distributed it, and they were losing 16 million gallons a day. So we started with 1 pressure unit, about $800 investment, recognized a massive loss, right? It starts with a simple solution. To your point, it always is going to take someone from leadership to carry the thing through. But finding one opportunity to deploy an IoT device that drives ROI will wake up anybody within your leadership, especially when a simple solution like that can create a huge savings for an organization. So don't stop looking.
That was such a good example, Brian.
So we are run out of time. So there is a poll that you should be seeing right now. How would you rate this session on a scale from 1 to 5? I would like to thank our speakers here for these amazing insights and knowledge. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Highbite, for sponsoring this session. Your support ensures we all have this great content to share. And thank you to our attendees here. Thanks, Ala here, Manuel also for being active there. And yeah, now it's time to move to the next session, AI-powered SecOps solutions, the pathway to proactive and resilient cybersecurity. Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
For this.
Enjoyed
I enjoyed that very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.